You looking for me, you can find me at the barbershop. Pulling up to get a cut, bumping through the parking lot. I keep it clean, Rico's where I'm running to. If you in the city, then you probably gonna be coming to. Gang getting down, Red's getting down, Nick getting down, Ron getting down, just to name a few. Everybody blade on point. You trying to get fresh, I'm telling you this the joint. Hands down, top shop up in this vicinity. Promises age 9, LaRon been getting me. Temper on the side, I'm trying to grow out the way.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the K.O.S. Barber Club podcast, where we discuss the collection of wisdom on the science of everything in life. And we do so by interviewing our guests and identifying where they obtained a self-knowledge and how they created a self-concept that in total gave them knowledge of self and got them to the position they are right now. Today, I have a guest with me that I've known for a long time that doesn't turn off his phones, but it's all good.
Shutting it off right now, man.
Because we're doing what we do, and we do it naturally with love, and it always comes out ill.
Shut this off. There we go.
So without further ado,
Yes, sir.
DJ Effect.
What's up, man?
How are you, sir?
I want to tell you that was one of the smoothest intros that I've heard in podcast history.
Really? Podcast has been around that long. So.
You got that shit in one take.
Really?
Yeah, man.
One take,
It's
Gene.
like
That's my new name.
Jay-Z of podcast.
Cheers, mate, because I see you're doing your podcast too.
Yeah, man.
What's the name of that podcast?
It's called Half a Ton of Fun. It's basically just three fat guys wilding the fuck out, you know?
Half a ton. Well, 4. I want to be on it Thursday.
For sure.
I'm going.
You're like 5 pounds away for the qualification, man. You got to
got-
gain 5 pounds before you come in.
Easy,
All right, no
easy,
problem.
easy. But yeah, man, like I told you, the podcast is K.O.S, short for knowledge of self. It's pretty much helping people understand that self-awareness.
Absolutely.
How did you get a self-concept to get to where you're at right now? So that's why I was like, yo, I got to bring Effect in. And then time worked out perfectly, and we're here right now.
Absolutely, man. I was excited to, I was watching the podcast. I seen a couple of my friends on the show, and I'm like, I can't believe this guy never called me to be on his podcast, man.
You're a busy
I
guy.
was taking offense to it. I was like, man, is it because I got fat? Like, I didn't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You're a busy guy. To get a hold of you is crazy.
nah, man, I'm here, bro.
But yeah, okay, so now you're here. Share with us, like, where did you have your first conscious thought as a kid that you could remember from
My
back
first thought, I guess my music journey started when I had a leg problem. I liked sports. I wasn't any good. Like, you guys were like professional soccer players, and I was like the fat Jewish kid trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do.
Word.
And then I was diagnosed with a bone cyst on my femur. And then I was like, well, I didn't even know what that meant. I was like 11 or 12. And I had to stop playing sports for whatever it was worth. Even though I wasn't good, that's what kept me busy. And then, I was like, what am I going to do? And I didn't really know what I liked at that point. I was young and I didn't know what I liked. And then I was home one night and I was watching the movie Juice.
Nice.
And the little DJ battle scene came on.
Q.
Yeah, DJ GQ. And it was the first thing that clicked in my mind because, I think the reason why I like sports, whether I was good or not, I just like the art of being competitive.
Oh, word.
So when I saw the DJ battle, I was like, wow, there's something I could be competitive at. Because, at a young age, you don't really know what competitive, like what you can do that's competitive. So I was just like, I saw the DJ scene and I was like, man, I really like the concept of this because it wasn't. And then from that, it kind of like spiraled into like, well, in a positive spiral, like getting into making music. It started from DJing, went into making music and producing. And it all started, like I said, from that negative, not to use
So
like
you
Pitbull's quote, but it took a negative, started into a positive. But
So the negative with the bone, what was it?
bone cyst.
Bone cyst. With that, you were aware at that time, you're like, damn, this sucks.
I didn't really know what was happening. I was young and I went to a doctor because my leg hurt. And, you just think you get hit in a sport or you fall, you think it hurts.
Yeah, it's a
and
bruise.
You feel like in a day or two you'll be fine. And then the doctor's like, well, you need surgery. And then the rehab of that's a year. And you got to like learn how to walk again. And like,
wow.
So it didn't click at first. But then when I was like, oh shit. So like they made me start walking with crutches, even though I didn't feel like I needed to walk with crutches because they were like worried that the bone would just break.
Take us to that mindset where, like, when you were that kid, when you learned all of this and you had to actually execute, because this is a lot for a kid to
The
take.
thing was, everybody's like, oh, were you scared? I didn't know enough to be scared. It was kind of like, I didn't really know what was going on. I'm like, what do you mean I can't walk? I'm walking. What do you mean I can't do this? And then it wasn't until I physically had the surgery that when I woke up from the surgery, I was like, oh shit,
It was
I can't
serious.
walk. I can't do anything. And that's when the journey began. And like, at the time, I was like, oh shit, why me? Why me? Why me? But honestly, bro, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like,
In hindsight, right?
yeah, God works in very mysterious ways, and I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person, but that was I want to say like almost like a spiritual awakening.
Correct.
Because I was kind of like, why me? Why me? Oh, thank you. Like this pain was the best pain I've ever endured in
So
my
you
life.
had a spiritual awareness at that time, you would say?
I would say, yeah, because nothing made sense to me. Like doctors didn't make sense to me. I was mad at everything. I was mad at everyone. And then when that happened, I was kind of like, well, no, let me rephrase that. In the beginning, it wasn't a spiritual awakening. It wasn't until I started to see the fruits of the labor from what that brought, right? Like I didn't know music was going to bring me success. But when I got my first gig, and I was like, wait a second, I'm this kid DJing in clubs that I can't even get into.
That's the
I
developmental
used to sneak
stages.
y'all in. I don't know if y'all remember when y'all wasn't even
I
of
used to
age.
carry your heavy ass crates.
Yeah, so
Because you couldn't carry them because you
he's
were
not talking
limp.
about the history either. He's known me more of my life than less of my life. So shot the gene.
I've been around before the lights, right?
Yeah, 1000%.
When we were DJing in the school gymnasium.
School, yeah, pep rallies, and then I went to house parties.
That was fun.
You know, the first time I seen you dry humping somebody was at a party I was DJing.
Yeah, I believe that happened.
So, you know what I'm saying? So
I might have blacked out. I don't remember.
1000%. Speaking of blacking out, let's have another cheers.
Yes, sir.
really
Cheers
quick.
to that.
Absolutely.
30 plus years. We made it, yo.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, it was.
So yeah, the self-awareness was when you got injured, you're like, damn, I have to do something.
That's when
Saw
it started.
Juice build up an idea of a self-concept. Then you got the turntables, then you started DJing,
Right.
and you actually got a gig. So take us to that mindset. Like, what's
So
that?
the mindset was like, man, you know, like not a lot of people at a young age really do stuff from a career perspective. They do it for like fun, and then, but for some reason, when I first started, I knew that was going to be my life. Like it wasn't like, you know, a lot of people do stuff when they're young, whether they play instruments, sports, all these different things. Like I don't think anyone really thinks. I mean, a lot of people do think. Like I know athletes that when it's in their culture, they want to be athletes their whole life.
Yeah.
But a lot of people start with hobbies, and then hobbies change as you grow older and find out the path you're taking, going to college, all these different things. But I knew the first time I did an actual gig, I knew that my career was going to be in music.
Okay.
100%, like nothing.
No doubts whatsoever.
Zero doubts.
What about fear?
You know, it wasn't fear, it was adrenaline. So like my fear wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to make it. My fear was like, I need to keep this adrenaline pumping so that I don't have fear.
Okay.
The adrenaline blocked the fear out.
And you had the backing. You had the moms and the pops backing you up the whole time.
I think I got extra support from my family because of what I dealt with. I think if I was a normal 12-year-old kid that didn't have shit
makes
going on, and I was like, I want to be a DJ, I think they would have been like, you had to stay home. You need to stay in school and figure it out. But when they saw that I had no choice and there was nothing I could do, you know, my father worked hard and he scraped up the money to help, and the combo of that and having a bar mitzvah, getting the bread to be able to get the equipment, you know, that definitely changed a lot. And having the support of a family that had my back, like my mom drove me to my first gig.
Yeah.
Waited outside for
a
me.
lot of times she drove us.
Yeah. So, I mean, having a supportive family was a major thing. You know, just physically knowing that they had my back meant a lot. And I know a lot of people don't have that, so I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah.
And that's why now, me being a parent, I put the same.
What would you tell people that don't have that help? What would
I
you tell
think
them?
some people that don't have that become even more successful, because if they don't do it 100% themselves, they're not going to make it. And let's say I did 80 and my parents did 20. I think that's why. I'm not saying that's why I don't think I hit my full potential, but I kind of knew that, you know, for a little bit.
You had a cushion.
Not even a financial cushion, just a moral cushion. You know, them having my back and just being like, go ahead, because, you know, looking back to what things were, like, I know not a lot of people had that. But I do know a lot of people that I grew up with that didn't have the support I had that also made it very far.
Yeah, but let's talk about the people that do have it,
right,
and don't even use it or don't even.
Well, that to me is crazy.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I think the reason why it worked out better in my household is because I come from a Middle Eastern background, and my father was one of those people that even when he didn't have it, he figured out a way to get it. Correct. And I think that helped me push through harder, right? Because you know, watch my father having ups and downs in his life and his career. I knew what it was to have everything, and I knew what it was to lose it. And I even endured that after all the success I had. You know, I will say I've had losses that a lot of people didn't know about. You know, when I built, those
are little character bricks that you hold on to.
1000%. And one of the things that changed my life for the better was another failure. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the things that I feel like took me to another level over the last 5 years was building $1 million business with Mr. Cream.
Yeah,
and then
congrats on that. My son
Right.
used to love that bubblegum thing you had.
But what people don't know is, losing the empire of things that were out of my control, like the pandemic. Because what people didn't know was,
But you were scrapping with the city. I saw that.
I was scrapping with the city, and when I finally broke through from that, and I got through the red tape of that shit, the pandemic happens. And the truth is, like, it wasn't just Wynwood. It was Wynwood, it was Brickell, it was Flagler Village going up, it was trucks, it was catering, it was building a brand, it was building a TV show that we shot a pilot for with Vice TV when Vice TV was right behind me.
Yeah.
And I still have the pilot on my Instagram. It was like, I saw what was becoming, and losing that made me realize a lot of shit. It made me realize that no one's bulletproof, physically, financially, and from a business standpoint. And you should never take any of your wins for granted because they could be taken away just as quick as you got it.
Yes, correct.
And it taught me the art of being financially responsible.
Do you think the incident when you were a kid that you couldn't use your leg or you couldn't walk helped you harness the energy that you were feeling at that time?
I think failures build bigger winners.
That's a good one.
Because if you don't know how to lose, you fucking sure as hell are not gonna know how to win. And you won't know the difference.
I agree with you.
You definitely, you won't know the difference.
Message. Say that again.
I don't even remember because you gave me this tequila.
That's how good it was. That we don't even have to say it again. But yeah, man, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So take us through what happened after that.
So after that, it was kind of like, okay, I went from being a person that, had victories, had losses. The DJing thing was kind of like already solidified. Like, I feel like when you reach a certain level in just in a market like Miami, you don't have to really fight for your position anymore. I fought for the position for a long time as a DJ. I secured it.
No, I remember, man. We used to show up to places.
And I still, thankfully, all these years later, I luckily still have that. You know what I'm saying? I'm still able. I've been holding down a residency at Club 11 now for 11 years from the day they opened. And holding 11-year residencies don't really exist. But I took pride in the craft, and it wasn't a gimmick. So, the one thing that I learned about the ice cream business was it was the first time in my life I caught a win with a gimmick versus talent. Because I was used to catching my wins from talent versus gimmick. And then the DJ industry, obviously, now we moved into the era of like the Marshmallows and the Paris Hilton DJs and all that stuff. So
different vibe.
I learned from that. I wasn't making fun of them. I was like, well, if people are coming into a talent-based industry with gimmicks, let me get into something that I could use my gimmick to try to make a win, because I'm not an ice cream maker. I'm not a chef. I love ice cream, but I love the concept. And I was like, how can I take the thing that I won and had victories in, like hip hop, and make it into a culinary experience without knowing nothing about the craft, right? So we built this big ice cream brand where the gimmick was hip hop and the talent was the ice cream. I didn't make the ice cream, but I used the gimmick of what I did to drive the brand. And I saw, it was like the first time I experienced like what I call gimmick hate.
Really?
The same way how DJs like hated on like a guy like Marshmallow for having to wear a mask and Paris Hilton playing to a recorded track. It was the first time where it was like ice cream shops were hating like, oh, this DJ don't know shit. He's just selling ice cream and blah, blah, blah.
That exists?
1,000. It exists in every single field. Barbers are going to hate on you.
Business.
Well, it's like any business, right? Like if you're winning and somebody else is trying to figure out how to win, especially if they've been in the game longer and you start to win because you were right place, right time, right scenario, it's going to bring hate.
Yeah, but any successful
person. You ever had a barber hate on you?
All the time.
Because you're doing good, right?
But not in my face, ever.
I mean, nothing was to my face, but you always found out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. So it's like, but the funny thing was, like, anytime I found out about it, I always confronted other ice cream shop owners tastefully. I wasn't like, you don't know shit, you don't know me. I was just like, hey man, explain to me why you don't like me, because I want to learn from this. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you frowning upon me. If you don't like what I'm doing, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And then
it helped out.
It helped out a lot. And some of the people that were
some
of the people that were my haters became my friends.
Which is usually the case.
And when I went out of business, I was reaching out to them like, yo, I got storage full of stuff. Like,
you guys need?
You guys want it, you need it. And then I walk around and I see a part of my legacy and my history all over Miami from ice cream shop owners that
Nice.
And then this year I was fortunate enough to be able to bring the brand back with a very unique opportunity. I got a phone call from one of my wife's friends who has a experiential marketing agency based out of California. Shout to Irene in Studio 93. They reached out to us and they were like, yo, you guys still doing the ice cream thing? I'm like, yes and no. I do caterings and stuff. I don't have to shop anymore. I explained the story. And they were like, Drake is doing a huge event for Art Basel and they want to have an ice cream truck. They want you to DJ. They want to do this whole thing. And it was right when I closed this deal with a company out of Finland that produces 3D desserts. So I can
What?
like take a picture of your face and put it on a popsicle.
Word.
So like it's this new thing that I'm doing, and that's part of the new reinvention of what I'm doing with Mr. Cream. We did this huge event with Nocta, which is Drake's brand under Nike, and it kind of like re-catapulted our whole brand like bigger, better, stronger than ever. That's what I was saying. Like, not all losses and all L's don't become future wins again. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Correct.
I did take the time off that I needed, and to be honest with you, that 5-year intermission of my brand, you know, a lot changed because I was also focusing on being a father too. I think I needed that because when
You
my
stepped
kid,
away from the noise.
right? Because during the pandemic, I was stressed out, and then before the pandemic, I was so wrapped up in work, I didn't get to experience the highlight of my kids being here. You know what I'm saying?
Which is the most important thing.
Which is the most important thing. But sometimes, again, unexpected things happen.
Yeah.
And it makes you put shit into perspective. Like, I'll never, ever, ever choose money over time again.
Why?
You know what I'm
Because
saying?
time is
'Cause-
valuable. Money
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
That's 1,000%.
It's a physical thing, but it's only paper. You know what I'm saying? The value that you add to that paper is what really is valuable. And we're all brainwashed thinking that it's valuable when it's not. But we got to play the game, right?
1,000%.
So then you started working on that. What's next then?
So what's next is that, you know, the focus is in bringing back the brand and doing things that haven't been done. Like, you know, everybody's like, you know, how do you compete in a space like ice cream where everybody has an ice cream shop? Just like with barbers and DJs, there's always a million people trying to do the same thing, and certain
Correct.
people get lucky, some people get victory, and some people find unique opportunities to stand out. You know what I'm saying?
It's not
Like,
what you do, is how you do it.
yeah, man. Like I remember when Pacino was talking about his company at my house before the brand was a brand.
Word.
You
Shit,
know-
I go even back. Remember Rich?
Yeah, of course. So
I hit up Rich recently. I was like, yo, I remember when you were asking me questions about barbering because you were going to take the barber test in Tallahassee. And I was like, damn, now he's like in a totally different atmosphere.
yeah,
It's
man.
like,
And I remember, like I said, I remember when something went from an idea to a victory. And it's you know, the only thing that separates us from greatness is just, you know, putting our art out into the world. So basically what the ice cream thing was, I was like, I'm not going back into this shit playing the same gimmick. Oh, it's hip hop ice cream. Like I've already did it. And I was like, I'm not going to come back after this break and do the same shit. So when I
so
had
you
the
didn't really fail. What really happened was shift in consciousness.
It
No?
was a shift in conscious, and it was also like I think the world needed to slow us all the fuck down. Like I don't see, like, look, the pandemic is fucked up for a bunch of reasons, and all the conspiracy theory, all that stuff. It
Out
was
of
right,
anything bad, you could always get a good one.
but I definitely gained a lot from that. It was slowing down, and it was realizing how important family is, how important time is, and how important to really realize, like, if the pandemic was, I don't want to say as bad as they made it, but really what as bad as it could have been, like
Man, it was kind of like pulling the emergency brake.
yeah, but
the world.
that fact of thinking like everybody might get sick and die really started to make you realize, were all my problems really that serious? Were all the things that I stressed out before really that stressful?
I don't really have that much grace, and I never stressed out, man. Because I was, you knew me when I was young. I was just reckless. I didn't really think that far ahead. I was always thinking like, man, I'm just happy to be here.
Right.
And that thought was always from my intuitions, knowing that, okay, I know what's bad, I know what's good. Let me just keep doing good, and something
Right.
good will come out of it.
For sure.
So I kept it going, I kept it moving, and it made me the person I am today. So with that said, knowledge of self is very important. Is why we created the podcast, is why Effect is here, and he's sharing his story with us, and we're very appreciative. And I just want to know, from all these incidents that occurred, the leg, the creating the self-concept to be a DJ, being a DJ vibe, energy in Miami shifted. You had to reassess.
I had to reinvent 4 different times.
Okay, so is there a formula?
The formulas don't get comfortable. It's not a formula. It's just you have to be
Message.
The main thing you always gotta pay it. First of all, you always gotta be a student in the game.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Who is it? The guy that thinks he knows everything is a fool?
When I went from 20 years old to 30 years old, when I was 30, I asked every 20-year-old. When I went from 30 to 40, I was asking the 30 and the 20. And I'm the DJ that always took requests. As long as you're not annoying with it. Like if you put a fucking phone in my face
So
and
you
say
play
Bad Bunny,
you
I'm
play
like,
Bad Bunny?
yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like I've always, when I traveled, you know, to different markets before the internet, like when I got my first experiences of playing in Vegas and LA and New York, first thing I did was I did my research. I found out who was the poppin' DJ in town, and I called them and I was like, yo, what's the biggest records? I need to know what's the biggest records, because before the internet, every market had their own wave.
Yeah, but this is back in the days. Like people viewing might think that you looked it up online.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
This is like real grinding, finding
Yeah.
numbers and knowing people, because it was no.
and even we're going from
Internet.
going from records to the laptop. You know what I'm saying? Like having to get the right records, like all of that shit requires homework. You know, and that's why, not to toot my own horn, but I'm like, bro, like I've been relevant as a DJ for 3 decades.
No, I've experienced it.
And if you
I
look
used to
at-
carry the crates.
But if you even look at the
Shits are
decades,
heavy.
it's more than that, because it was like the 90s, the 2000s, the 10s, and now the 20s. So it's like part of 4 decades.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Starting of the last 4. Yeah. Then you're gonna keep it going. You're still gonna DJ.
I'm always gonna DJ if there's a reason to do it, and as long as the crowd is in front of me and I'm getting the same love that I'm giving, I'm gonna keep doing it. If I ever feel like the love isn't, returned, I could bow out gracefully. I will never do the Michael Jordan wearing 45. I want to stay with the 23.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All
Like,
right.
I don't want to leave the game and come back with a different number. If I can't rock the same jersey, I'm not. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. So like at this moment, you already have, like you said, the formula, effects formula to pretty much starting a new business. And then I saw you also invested in the restaurant.
Yeah. So the restaurant thing was something that was another big learning experience for me. And I got out quicker than I got in, because like I said, time is a very important thing.
Okay.
And the ice cream business and a full restaurant business is 2 different animals. And I got in and I saw an opportunity that could have been financially rewarding. But then when I realized the trade for financial reward versus time away from family, I had to make a decision to really just say, you know what, let me take this L and let me walk away, because I never want to trade my time for money. DJing,
Why is that? Be more.
it's
Let us know
like
why.
all right, the reason why I love DJing and being a dad is because I get to work while my kids are asleep, and I don't miss the soccer games, and I don't miss a lot of the things that dads, and granted,
You'll be tired, but you're there.
right. And I have missed a couple games. And the saddest part of the crazy shit was I literally missed my son's first goal a month ago, right? Over a gig that I usually, I don't take gigs on Saturday mornings. And I did, and it was a lesson. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stopped touring when my son was born because I missed his first steps.
Yeah.
So there's like certain things that I know I could take my career to another level, but I'm happy with what I have, and I'm happy with my formula. And I've reached a point in my life where I consider it success. And I'm just going to keep taking the rewards that God gives me.
So you keep developing the self-concept.
1,000%, because I feel like more success comes when you're mentally, when you're rewarded mentally more than monetary.
And how do you come to these conclusions, man? Do you meditate, or do you just harness energy, or how do you go about?
Nah, it's like my inner beliefs, bro. I'm spiritual. I'm not religious.
So intuition?
It's feeling.
Intuition.
But I just call it a feeling. Like,
Okay.
and that's the same concept. I feel like I adapted with music. Like when I DJ, I don't do playlists.
Feel the crowd.
I don't do playlists. I don't do crates. I don't do pre-planned sets. It's all it's I look at the crowd, and throughout the night, I'll put my focus on 4 different corners of a room, find 4 different people from 4 different walks of life, and I'll lock with them. And as soon as I see one of them losing focus, I figure out a way to pivot and grab that person back.
And was there another DJ that gave you this knowledge?
No.
So you came up with the
my
concept?
DJ knowledge, I would say there's DJs that I learned technical things from.
Okay.
Certain scratches, certain things. Like I didn't know what wordplay was until I saw DJ M do wordplay. Okay. I didn't know what microphone work was until I saw Kid Capri.
Okay.
I didn't know certain things until some of the OGs, they didn't even know they were mentoring me. But the way that I adapted my flavor was off of feeling.
Wow.
So it was like learning concepts and learning.
And then putting your feeling, your entity into the system that you created.
Yeah, like I could literally be doing a party, and if I play a wrong record, I feel my whole vibe change, and I know I got to get out of it and get back into something. I don't even need the crowd, because I was a consumer before I was a supplier.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what I feel like my gift was as a DJ. It wasn't like scratching. It wasn't like, oh, I could scratch better than you and I could do this better than you. I feel like I have better feeling.
Okay, so we're talking about feeling. When did you get that feeling like, I made it, like this is it? Like when you acknowledge like, oh shit, this is a fucking big party or a big event, big venue, or one that you were like, wow, I'm really doing this.
There was a couple things that stood out in my career, and one of the things just actually popped up recently on my Facebook. I was always a fan of Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
And I never knew that he knew I existed, right? Okay. So one day I was in Miami. I had a relationship with this guy named Breon Prescott, I used to be on the road with a rapper named Smitty. Smitty had a song back then called Diamonds on My Neck, and then he went on as a big songwriter, worked for Dr. Dre. Breon was his manager. I didn't know all the years later that Breon became Jamie Foxx's manager, and now he's always with Ross. During the pandemic, He was the guy in the Kango dancing in everyone's videos and like all that shit. So I get a phone call one day, and Breon's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "I need you to go to LA." I was like, "For what?" He's like, Jamie Foxx is throwing a Grammy party at Sheila E.'s club called the Bongo Room or Conga Room or whatever it was, and I need you to go. And I was like, "For real?" And then he told me a budget that I didn't know I was capable of getting. And, I first of all, I thought like Ashton Kutcher was going to pop up from the TV show Punk'd and be like, Punk. You know what I'm saying? And so it was all a blur. I get to LA, I'm DJing this party, and it's Jamie Foxx, and he does his whole song and dance, and he like stops the music to like praise me at the party. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Wow. It was a feeling of like, I don't know if I want to have an anxiety attack. I don't know if I want to cry from happiness, or am I dreaming? But let me just rock with this shit. Nice. 2 seconds later, I turn around and Sheila E's dancing in a DJ booth for me. And to me, she's a legend, Prince's drummer, and also a dope-ass artist. Then he brings out Dougie Fresh. He brings out LMFAO when LMFAO was at its prime. And he just brought out every celebrity. And like, I got back to my hotel that night, and I was just laying in bed, and I'm like,
this really happened.
I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Did it go fast?
No, it went fast. And it was literally the next morning I woke up, and I swear to you, I felt like it was a dream. Like, I was just like, I'm not trying to sound cheesy.
No, yeah.
But it was like that moment. And then I came back to Miami, and it was like, I always wanted to be on radio. And then I get booked to DJ at probably one of the worst gigs I ever get booked to do. And I meet this guy named DJ Mummy. And Mummy's like, "Yo, why aren't you on the radio?" And I was like, "I never had an opportunity. I've been trying to get on 99 Jams forever." He's like, "Well, I'm the producer for the Baker Boys morning show on 103.5 The Beat. We're starting this new show called the All-Star Remix with Prince Marky D from the Fat Boys." Oh, and I was like, "What?" And I never met Marky at the time. Make a long story short, I started radio out of nowhere. Worst gig became how I landed radio. And that's where I started my radio journey that lasted about 12 years. I started at 103.5, then went to Y100, then went to 99 Jams. And Prince Marky D, who was my idol, my whole, like, watching the Fat Boys. And even my podcast now is like, I call it like the new era Fat Boys show, because it's 3 fat guys, half a ton of fun. Basically, four. And modded off of the Fat Boys. And Marky D was one of my best friends on earth. Rest in peace, Marky D. Yeah. And yeah, it was a crazy scenario, because the day before Marky passed away, he calls me up. It was like a Sunday night, and it was like coming out of the pandemic, and he was like, "Yo, twin, you want to go back to radio?" And I said, "Hell nah." And then he goes, "You want to go back to radio with me?" I was like, "Hell yeah." Okay. And then I was like, "Bro, what you doing for your birthday?" And his birthday was the next day. And then I remember I was driving to the shop, and I open up Instagram, and I see his picture everywhere. I'm like, "Fuck, I gotta hit him up to say happy birthday." And then I scroll, and I saw somebody put "rest in peace," and that was one of the craziest days of my life, because it was like all of the emotion of like the pandemic. I had lost my business, and then one of my
about to start.
And then I'm like restarting, thinking about going back to radio, and then one of my best friends in the world fucking passes away. Wow. But that was the moment again, another horrible experience. I thought about all the times where I wanted to leave radio, and he was the one telling me to stay. When I didn't want to go back to radio, the phone call before he passed away is what somehow influenced me doing a podcast now. Because nice. I didn't see a real opportunity worth going back to FM, because everything has been streaming and Spotify and Apple. And the only way for DJs, I feel like, to have leverage now is creating their own platforms.
Content.
And it was Marky D's phone call the day before he passed away that I was like, "Yo, I gotta get back into some form of entertainment, or I gotta get back into some way with engaging with people, whether it's a podcast or some sort of something." So again, it was another one of those things.
So that's the self-awareness. You had that thought, and you're like, "Yo," like you said, "I gotta start getting back to where I guess I feel comfortable," and that's crazy, man. But you took the plunge, you took the step, and you went to that business realm world,
right? And
you experienced from that, and now you're back with all that experience.
But the crazy thing is, throughout all of this shit, bro, I've never been driven by business. I've never been driven by money. It was always like, I want to have fun, and I know the reward's gonna come. I want to have fun. I know the reward's gonna come. I was never the guy that was like a college graduate. It's like, I gotta make a business plan, and I gotta figure this out and make a P&L. I've never, and I'm not knocking anybody who does that, because it's amazing for the people that do.
From what I remember, you like to have fun and party, but you did it the right way in the sense that you kept your compass in the right moral direction.
Because it's feeling.
Correct.
Yeah,
So listen to your intuition as part of knowledge itself.
If that shit gives you goosebumps, do that shit. If you meet a girl, if she gives you goosebumps or wherever your goosebumps go, that's the one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's exactly what I said.
yeah.
So what's next, Effect?
I mean, what's next for me, man, is I just want to keep having good feelings. You know what I'm saying? I just want to keep having fun.
And speaking of feelings, what was the feeling that you got that wanted you to start podcasting?
It was saying like, okay, the club life is changing. Clubs weren't DJ driven as much because people come to see you now versus hearing you. And I know that sounds crazy.
Because now they got the visuals.
Well, think about it. You go to every festival, you go to every club, everyone's on their phone videoing you. They're not even listening to you. They're putting you on the phone. So I said,
isn't that crazy?
It's very crazy. But that was the biggest eye opener, that if somebody wants to see me,
remember the psychics?
Do I really got to be out to 7 a.m.?
Remember the psychics?
So people, you know, yeah, man, I think it was more about kind of being the evolution of DJing or entertaining is.
But you DJ during the pandemic, right? You filmed.
Yeah, I was doing live streams. I was doing, you know, there was a lot of companies that kept the lights on for us. You know, there was a lot of companies reaching out.
Christina told me she hired you.
Yeah, Christina hired me. I did shit for Budweiser.
Shout out to Christina Crespi.
Christina was popping. You know, and bro, a lot of people from our school has done a lot of inspirational dope shit in Miami. Like,
yeah, I don't want to brag. But I look at our class and I look at all my friends and I'm like, damn, winning. There's a few that steered the wrong way because, you know, that's life.
But the thing is, I don't even look at shit like that no more, because if people are not winning, it's because they don't want to. And if they're happy doing nothing.
That's what I said. They steered the wrong way.
Bro, but sometimes it takes a special kind of person to be happy with nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, we're too programmed to think that we have to be millionaires to be happy.
Yeah, it's capitalist system.
I don't have much envy in my heart, but I envy people that are happy as hell with nothing.
Minimalist?
I don't even know if it's minimalist. Just like literally just like happy with nothing. Not like I live in a modern house that has no pictures on the wall. I'm talking about like literally happy doing nothing. They not even living check to check. Just living with no money. Like,
yeah.
I've seen homeless people that are happy.
No, there's people that live in the wilderness, man, and they just live off the land and they love it. And they say, I love that I can make my own decisions. I love that I can wake up when I want, do what I want, feed myself what I want, go where I want.
I'm not gonna lie, that's my plan one day. Not to be like I'm doing what I want and whatever, but my favorite vacations are going to like the mountains in Tennessee and Blue Ridge Mountains.
I like doing all that. Vacations, going, doing, like experiencing. But to me, being a leader in the industry that I'm in with my people and in the company I'm in, helping that person that doesn't know how to get there is where I feel like, damn, this is dope.
Yeah, mentorship is a big thing.
Because I have people that I've worked with in the beginning, they were like reckless.
For sure.
And then through a little bit of nudging, guidance, and experience sharing, not instructing, sharing, so they can make their own decisions. Now I see them 10 years later, and they're at a different place.
For sure.
And till this day, they come up to me, they're like, yo, Gene, bro, I appreciate you looking out. I appreciate you giving me all this.
Bro, a little goes a long way, man. Just remembering people's names, shaking hands, you know, always giving people the respect they deserve. And that's one thing that anybody will notice, that my whole life being in the club industry or producing industry, I shake everyone's hand. I don't care if you're the bathroom attendant, the valet parker. I give everybody their flowers, because at the end of the day, the nightlife shit doesn't work unless everybody plays a role, and everybody is just important. I'm not going to, bro, a bar back is just as important as the DJ, because if the client doesn't get his drink, the formula doesn't work. You know, everybody is important in that room. It's a whole formula.
Plugged in. Everybody's in the same vibe. Some people are making money, some people are spending, but everybody's in that system. I get it. Cool.
Sure. I mean, and to me, bro, the thing that I take pride in the most is all my charity stuff. Like, I live for my charity stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the things that...
I saw you got a brick in
that was at Nicholas Children's Hospital. Yeah, Nicholas Children's Hospital.
Salute to that.
I give a lot of my...
I respect that, because not that many people do that. A lot of people take pictures with cars and stuff, and you're over here taking a picture with a brick. Like,
that was my biggest accomplishment.
Look at this brick.
We raised $1 million for the hospital. I do things throughout the year, whether it's a toy drive or a back to school drive, or we just did the prom this past Saturday. There's a prom for kids that unfortunately will transition before seeing a prom. Whoa. So we do a prom to basically give them the experience that they might not get. So those are things that, you know, we're working now on bringing back.
Man, I never thought of that.
We're bringing back the musical therapy program. There's something that the hospital does called the heartbeat program, where they record a heartbeat of a kid that has terminal illness, and when the child passes, a team of producers remixes the heartbeat and they give it to the parent to say your kid will live through music.
Wow.
So there's a lot of cool things that are on the horizon that we're doing. And you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for the hospital because my whole journey started from being a kid in the hospital. So people didn't really know like why I got so heavily involved specifically with that hospital.
You know how it feels.
That was the same hospital system I was a part of when I was getting my leg, you know, learning how to walk and having surgery. And
how come you never like talked about this? Or
I do, but you know, we live in a world that the algorithm pushes harder with negativity versus positivity. Okay. And if you look at the brick, that has less love than me saying, you know, some negative shit. So I know how to work the algorithm, and a lot of the shit I post on social media, everybody's like, oh, he's a depressed person, he's angry, and I'm sitting back like laughing. I'm like, it's marketing, man.
I'm playing chess.
Yeah, I mean, Kanye West is an example of doing a little too much, but for a while he was on the right thing because the whole goal is to keep people talking.
Exactly. Even if it's bad or worse. I think that move that he did to sit in front of Taylor Swift was amazing. That move was great.
I mean, that was great. I think he pushed the boundary this time with like the swastika and dressing up like a Ku Klux Klan person. That's like, now you need attention, bro.
But check this out. You know, the swastika wasn't always an evil symbol. It was actually, but then they turned it.
Right.
So like if you get somebody from a different time to see it, they would think differently. Till this day, I don't agree with none of that. That shit's kind of whack, but it's a symbol. Like what I tell my daughter all the time, because she's always upset that people are talking, telling her all this stuff. I'm like, yo, you believe that shit? And she's like, no. I'm like, who cares? Like if somebody curses you out in Chinese, you can't understand. Do you even care what they're saying?
It's the truth.
No. So I'm like, yo, just tune it out. She's like, I can't, Dad. I'm like, bro, just tune it out.
The new generation I fear for, and you know, me having 2 kids, I feel the same way. I feel like you can't be controlled by a smartphone. Smartphones make everybody stupid. And it's like,
we were talking about it earlier. Everywhere I go now, I hear tariffs. No one, and I ask people like
99.9% of the people don't. Dude, even know
I
what
ask people like, obviously I looked it up and know what it is, but I ask people like, yo, what's a tariff? And then they explain to me like something far fetched from what it is, and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, bro.
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier. Everybody bent out of shape over the stock market. They don't even play the stock market.
This is nuts.
Look, there's a lot of weird shit that's happening, and politics are always going to be politics. Just don't be consumed by that shit. Because at the end of the day, bro, like the whole world was freaking out over eggs. I'm like, you're saying you're bitching that eggs are $8 now instead of $5, but you're still buying $200 shoes that cost $4 to make.
And you know what's hilarious? I went to the egg white section. And it's full.
1,000%.
Like there's a whole bunch of egg whites. I'm like, bro, there's eggs here. Like just grab egg whites.
And bro, there was people panicking over eggs that never even bought eggs before. Like,
oh, that's how.
I'm gonna go buy 6.
There's a hurricane coming. Let me get water. It's like, bro, you got a lot of water in your house. I don't know why you're buying all these bottled waters.
It's just that the media knows how to drive.
It's nutty, man. It's nutty, and I think we're living in crazy times, but I also think we're at a high peak in civilization.
I don't even think we're living through crazy times. It's evolution, right? Like our parents looked at us like we were crazy. We're looking at our kids like they're crazy, and that concept is always going to continue. Like,
no, what I mean about the crazy times is like when I drive around, I catch myself on my phone, and I'm like, yo, chill, and I put some jams on. I even go far. I still have a CD deck, so I take out and I put a CD.
Okay, but let me give you a perfect example. I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
When you were young, you didn't have the phone. You were driving around with a book on your lap with 400 CDs trying to find your one song. Why is that any different? Instead of going like this, you were going like this.
Yeah, but check it. So now fast forward to now. Imagine people walking around the streets with a book going like this, looking for a CD, and then you look at inside a bus and you see everybody doing the same thing, and then you look inside cars.
But I think it was the same because when you were on the bus, you saw people with Source magazine. You saw them with magazines or CD books or whatever you were into, Game Boys. There was always something that kept people consumed.
Yeah, but
it's just now it's too much consumption.
And it's crazy. Like, for instance, my daughter talks with a group of friends for 18 hours. It's 18 hours. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Obviously, it's a Saturday. They wake up early. They talk. And then late night, I was like, yo, that's it. Bro, I grab her phone. It's like scorching hot. I'm like, yo, you talk to the same people? No, it's a group. We go in and out. We come back. I'm like, yo.
It's definitely weird. My cousin, he's, I don't know, 23, 24 years old. He moved to Holland, right? And he travels a lot, but it's weird why he travels. And I pay attention to certain people, and I always interview people because I come from a radio background. And it's like everything's always interrogation interview shit, right? So I'm like, you know, how do you meet girls? Tinder. Where do you get your food from? Uber Eats. How do you get around? Uber. Why do you dress nice? To post pictures on the ground. Why do you travel? To post pictures. So there's a solution for every single thing that these young people do that has to do with their phone. And I'm like,
so you think without the phone they won't have one clue how to do anything?
Think about us back in the day, right? We would finish school on Friday afternoon. First thing you do is go to the barber shop. We go pick out our outfit. We figure out, we huddle up with the boys. Where are we going?
Yeah.
We go be social. We try to grind up on a girl. We try to get a phone number, a beeper number, whatever the fuck it was. And that was, you were out in the field having human interaction. You know, we would eat together. It wouldn't be like you're eating at your computer and somebody and FaceTime and this and that.
Yeah, that was there. Like, yo, why are you chewing so loud?
It's like everyone got so desensitized now because the screen is like the merge. And then the funny thing was, I was having a conversation with a guy. I do a different podcast where I'm interviewing business owners, and it's not a podcast, it's a conversation. I did one with a banker, and we talked about finance and stuff. Tomorrow, I'm doing one with a personal injury attorney.
Oh, that you were in the car.
Yeah, that was one of them. Well, the funny thing was, it wasn't supposed to be in the car. I lost my keys to my studio, and I was like, I'm not losing this day, and I'm not letting this guy down. We're going to thug it out. I threw my iPhone, and we ran it.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing was, that was probably one of the most viral clips that I've had just doing shit, because I feel like people can relate to that more.
Correct. It's a more realistic. It doesn't seem as structured.
So where the fuck was I going with this? I was talking about that, and I was talking about the people that I was interviewing. Oh, shit. I don't even remember. This is like completely ADD.
It's okay. Don't worry.
They're also feeding me tequila, so I think that's why that went out the window. But
that went out the window.
Anyways, if it comes back to me, I'll talk about it. But anyways, yeah, so interviewing different people from different walks of life. But everyone is realizing now that this is the new wave of how, like a personal injury attorney or a banker, he got more leads for home mortgages on that one episode than the ads he was paying for, because people were intrigued to know. People were intrigued to know about this one mortgage program that he was rolling out.
So, in fact, I'm asking you a question, because I deal with this thought all the time. Like, how do you monetize that? And if you do, should you?
I don't ever like to say to people, hey, if I make you money, give me some kickback. But there's formal ways, and there's ways of people. You have to learn the art of making people offer you that instead of you asking for it, because it's weird.
Okay, so it is
because I feel like
as a DJ, you learned this.
I learned this where like to somebody, I would never say, hey man, I'm going to put you on this show, and if you get leads from me, you got to give me money. It's more about, like, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I know if I do this,
he's going to get
and
hits.
In any business, right, you got to invest time or money or a little bit of both.
Right.
If I interview somebody for an hour and that guy gets leads from it, it's automatic that he's going to come back to you and say, hey bro, this really worked well. Can we do it again? If so, I'm going to either give you a referral code or I'm going to give you kickback. Hey man, I really don't need that, but if I'll gladly take it if it's,
X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, and Z, yeah.
All right.
Sponsorship is key too. The way to monetize all of this stuff is, basically showing people, hey man, like, I'm not asking you for money, but I have a platform that has X amount of eyeballs. And if you want to see these eyeballs, we have a promotional package. If you're ever interested, take a look.
How do you feel about that? Because I feel like I started this to help people. Never started it to make money. Same way with like cutting hair. I didn't do it to make money. I did it because, Don and us, we didn't have bread. So we were like, yo, we got to cut each.
There's ways of doing things that are not obnoxious. And, TV has commercials. Instagram runs ads. When you're on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen breaks in your show that pop ads that you're not getting paid for.
Correct.
And there's just different ways of doing things. And I believe in doing things tastefully and not taking advantage. And I'd rather make $1 a day, 1,000,000 days, than try to figure out how to bang somebody in the head for $1 million in one day and then never get it. We come from a market like Miami where everyone's mentality is, how can I get rich overnight? And they spend their whole life working.
Or people lie about it.
They all lie about it.
Dude, you know how many people I like hear a story and I'm like, damn, for real? And then
oh, this guy's getting it. And then people are getting jealous over this.
And then people are telling me, they're not doing that. And like, trust me, I know him, and then because I'm a barber, so I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, yo,
I'm sure you hear all of that shit.
Dude, like, I ain't gonna say no names or nobody, but I worked with somebody that got the barbershop, and the whole time had me thinking that he bought the barbershop because of his money. Then I realized it was an investor that used them.
Right.
You're the barber. I'm going to buy the barbershop. You run it. Okay. But then he told everybody it was his. And I'm like thinking to myself, like,
everybody that brags to me about having money, I sit and I listen and I don't say nothing. And then I look at them and I say, are you happy?
And they say no, or maybe.
No. And then it winds up becoming like this deer in the headlights shit where they don't want to answer. Like, bro, like a lot of people that I didn't work with or worked for, the more money they got, the more miserable I saw them become, because I really believe that money doesn't change people. It amplifies whoever you really are, right?
I heard
If you're
that
a
before.
miserable fuck and you get money, you're going to be the ultimate miserable fuck.
Yeah.
And if you're a happy person and you love life and you make money, it's going to be
It's gonna help you push that vibration.
right. And honestly, like having money doesn't buy happiness, it buys freedom, and freedom gives you happiness, right? But I feel like that's the first step once you unlock that. The second step is like now it enhances whoever you really are.
I agree with
And
that.
you know, I parted ways working with a lot of people when success came because I saw who they really are when the money was in play.
And you didn't care about the money.
I
or
don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I want to have money so that my kids have a foundation, and if God forbid I get sick, the money can fix me or heal me or pay a doctor's bill or whatever. But like I'm not motivated by like I need a Rolls Royce and I need a 10-bedroom house for
it's
me and
just
my wife and
financial
my
freedom
two
for what
kids.
you just spoke about.
Yeah, it's about being financially stable because financial stability creates mental stability. And I tell all my friends sometimes, I'm like, you're not doing bad. You just live in Miami.
Yeah, but that's again, it's like what the podcast is talking about, self-awareness. Like if you're not self-aware and you created, let's say you are self-aware and you created a self-concept that is not according to your feelings or not according to your goal,
Right.
but you created this concept because it's making you money.
Right.
Do you keep going with that even though it's making you money?
No, you do.
course not.
You do whatever you do that makes you fucking happy.
And that's where knowledge of self comes in. That's why it's like self-awareness, self-concept, knowledge of self.
Bro, you know how many times I walked away from money because I wasn't happy? It just happened recently. I'm not even going to say where I used to work. I worked with a place, was heavily invested in a place from a monetary standpoint, a time standpoint, and just a mental standpoint.
And you were
right?
comfortable.
And it was not. I'm never comfortable. I'm never comfortable
Okay,
because
why is that?
Things like the pandemic, things like not walking,
So
things
you
like
see? Okay.
things knowing that anything could change from one second to the next. You can't ever be comfortable.
Okay.
You know how many people that had a job for 20 years and got fired for like they came in and
Yes, I do.
the world changed.
Yes.
So you can never be comfortable.
Yeah.
But when you start to feel unhappy, there's no fucking price you could put on that shit. And I never understood that when people used to say it back in the day.
Yeah, but that's something you gotta feel, experience.
feeling.
Or you gotta actually like invest in something to the point where you're all in and then lose it all, and then you're like, you know what? It's all right. Once you cross the threshold. There's a lot of people that break before they even make.
The other thing I could say is, and I tell this to people all the time, if you were successful once, you can be successful again. So the hardest thing is becoming successful once. Knowing what it took to get there, whether it was your drive, your ability, conscious decisions, knowing when to say no. One of the most important things in business is learning the fucking art of saying no. If you know something can't make you happy or make you money, you have to say no. There's so many people, especially in Miami, that fall into this hamster wheel of like saying yes to everybody. And then you wind up pleasing everybody and then you're not happy.
Yeah, you lose yourself.
So I think the art of saying no is important, but I feel like if you can figure out how to be successful once, even if you lose it, you'll get it again. The hardest part is the first time.
Yeah, but what if you don't get it again? Or
Ever?
what if you get something, but it's not even close to what you had before?
You have to set realistic goals, right? Like when you're a baby, you crawl before you walk. Like
Okay.
that, you can't be a baby and just decide to go fucking running, right? So if you set small, realistic goals and you accomplish them, it's like what I was just saying a few minutes ago. Like everyone in Miami is trying to get rich overnight, and they wind up being broke their whole life because if they don't get rich overnight, they're like, fuck it, I don't want to do this.
I lost it. Yeah.
But all of the people that are cool with saying, I'm going to get rich and it's going to take me 10 years to do it, and they worked with small goals all the way up,
Yeah.
with the exception of somebody hits a lick or a crypto thing happens or some magic happens, which happens here.
Yeah, but that's
for the
very
most part,
low,
it's-
low percentage.
And the most people who get rich overnight lose it so fast because they think it's going to happen again because
Or they don't know, they don't have the knowledge how to keep the finances up to par.
right. And also, like, living beyond your means is something stupid. With all the
That's
success
what
I've
Miami was made out of, man.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I'm not a multi-millionaire. With all the success I've been given in my life, I still shop on Amazon.
Yeah, but that's
I
because
don't
you've
own,
been that guy.
but I've never owned name brand clothes. I don't do Gucci and Prada and Valentino and never. Like, I like Jordans and I like $10 shirts. And I like jewelry because jewelry, if I know I ever need the money's there. I can't sell
Holds value.
This Prada shirt was worn 6 times. Give me $50 for it. It doesn't work like that.
I don't know. It depends. It was worn by DJ Effect. You probably sell it for a lot.
It's a nah, man. But for me, it was, no one needs that shit.
That's true. I mean, I guess to each his own, right?
Yes and no. It's also sometimes you're bad influences, right?
Yeah, but okay, so let's go there because you're in the entertainment business and then knowledge yourself. Like, if I'm an up and coming artist and I'm making noise and people are acknowledging me and I'm becoming an influencer, which I hate that fucking word, but whatever, influencer. And then like a company like, let's say Prada or Gucci approaches you, be like, hey, here's thousands of dollars worth of clothes, just wear it. Are you gonna wear it?
It depends. I have to like it. I mean, if
you like
if
it.
I like it, I'll wear it. But I'll never spend the money to do it.
Yeah, but nobody knows you.
And all the things that are going viral this week specifically is an interesting conversation because all over the internet, it's all these Chinese factories exposing these $600 shirts that cost $4.
Yeah, but we all
to
knew
make.
that. I knew that.
I knew it to a point. I didn't know I knew that. Huh?
You didn't know the extent of it?
Not to that level. Like when they exposed Dior and they were like, yo, Dior's not even fucking made in Italy. It's just assembled in Italy. But like it starts off in China, it goes over here.
Yeah.
And
that's how it is.
I never cared to think about it either. But
I started thinking about that when I saw a show that they took Payless shoes, took off all the Payless logos.
Oh, yeah, I seen that.
Switched it. You saw that?
And they invited these influencers. They was like, oh, this shoe is my favorite
And everybody
shoe.
paid $400, $500 for $20 shoes. And they were talking to the camera like, this leather, I could see the quality and the production of this. And the design is beautiful. I could tell they're real artists. And then at the end, they all felt crunchy, man, because it was like all a lie and an illusion.
Bro, one of my friends, I'm not gonna say his name because it's probably gonna be insulting, and he'll know who it is. But I'm gonna make this conversation. He's another DJ, and I'm like, bro, why the fuck are you spending that kind of money on these shirts? He's like, yo, man, ever since I started wearing these clothes, people started treating me different. I'm like, it's in your head. He's like, I'm getting more bookings now. I'm like, dog, you don't think you're getting bookings because you're dope? You think promoters really sit at a table and they're like, yo, man, this guy's wearing Balenciaga now. We need to hire him because he has a Balenciaga t-shirt. I'm just kind of like, maybe you're fucking bugging.
Maybe it's the feeling, man. Because him wearing that shirt feels good. So he vibrates a different way. So everybody sees him and talks to him a different way because his vibration.
Oh, I'm all for that. Do what makes you happy.
And because of that good feeling, his set is ill.
If he said to me, yo, man, I genuinely like that shit and the material feels great, or I just like that logo, it speaks to me, I would respect that more than like, yo, man, this guy's booking me because I'm wearing a Balenciaga shirt. That's not the case. I've been working in that life my whole life. I've never ever once heard an owner or a promoter say, I got to book this guy because he got a Prada shirt. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, never say never, but yeah, it's far-fetched.
It's fucking wild if you think about it. But I mean, barber's a therapist because I know that there's days I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, fuck, man, I look old and I look tired. And I get a haircut and it's like, the way I feel, it's magic.
It's a transfer of energies, man, and it's been around since barbering's been around.
I didn't get a haircut for a year when the pandemic happened. I looked like a fucking wild, homeless psycho. And when I got that first haircut, I felt like it took me into a time machine.
You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's an evolution. Like every week you get to like reinvent yourself in a sense. And then if you go to that one person that gives you that fresh cut that you feel ill, there's no other feeling like it that I remember because that haircut takes you to the beginning of the week or the beginning of the process of.
So I'm not trying to turn this interview around and make it like I'm interviewing you because that would be weird. But I do have a question.
Yourself.
You do know that being a barber, you're technically a fucking therapist.
That's what everybody tells me, and I'm like, yeah, I know. But I try to give advice to my girl, and she just says, you don't know.
What do you think it is about the word bar that starts off with therapist, right? Because bartenders and barbers have the same effect on people. Where you want to have a drink and you want to tell the bartender your life story. It's kind of the same thing with every barber that I've been with, like for years.
Maybe because we're all barbarians.
It could be that. But I feel like my barber probably knows just as much about me as my wife.
Yeah, because the thing is, you get to see 4 or 5 times a week if you're lucky, or not 2 times.
You got clients that come 5 times a week?
Yeah, I got a client that gets a haircut, shape up, haircut, shape up.
Every day?
No, like a Monday, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Damn, man, that's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, so what they do is they're promoters or they work in the biz or they are in the cameras. Like I had an anchor for Channel 7 one time and he was constantly coming in. He's like, oh, I got to film today. I got to do this today. So I have a few of those clients.
Yo, has that tequila hit your soul? Because I'm starting to feel like that. Like,
that was tequila? I didn't even realize it.
I'm like, shit. Sorry, that was a little sidebar there.
Sidebar. But now we're talking about barbers and all that and knowledge. So I have a few questions that I always ask at the end of the interview. Are you ready?
I think so.
And I want first thing that comes to mind. All right? You remember the movie Bronx Tale?
Of course.
When Sonny was asked by Colosio, would you rather be feared or loved? What do you think about that?
It changed. I know I'm not trying to give a whole long answer. my whole life I wanted to be loved, but I realized that fear brings more respect than love. Okay. Not in my household. Let me exclude my household. I know this is a very broad answer. Outside of my household, I'm gonna go with feared over loved any day.
All right. Knowing or understanding?
Understanding.
Why is that?
Because you can't understand. You can't know shit if you don't understand it. So it's kind of, I know it's a very broad answer, but it's like understanding is what fixes war. Understanding is what fixes marriage. Understanding is what fixes business.
Like, you shouldn't have unprotected sex. You know this.
No, I understand that.
See? Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wealth or riches?
Wealth.
Why?
Because wealth isn't money. Wealth isn't money.
Okay.
Rich is money. Rich is when you base everything, at least in my eyes, rich is when you base things off of a dollar amount, a paycheck, or how much you're getting paid. You could have zero money and be wealthy. If you have friends, you have family, you have people around you that you trust, that's wealth.
Nice. Perception or reality?
For me, it's always reality. Because to me, perception, if I wanted perception, I would watch movies all day and never leave my house. I would never go into the real world, and I would just live in
you know people do that, right?
I know. Okay. It's called Psycho.
Okay. Joy or happiness?
Happiness.
Why?
Because everything in life revolves around happiness. I got to be honest with you. I don't know the difference. All I know is happiness, and I know that sounds cheesy also. I don't really know what joy means.
Joy is like a sporadic thing. You know, happiness is like looking at your family in a barbecue.
Happiness all day.
And joy is like hooking up with the girl you want to hook up with.
Happiness. I think happiness is the number one priority over anything.
All right. What do you think about the term power of choice?
Well, I want to go back to the happiness thing. I never prayed for never prayed for money, never prayed for success. I only prayed for happiness.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Power of choice. What do you think of that term?
The power of choice is everything, because your choice is what can make everything amazing or everything horrible. So yeah, power of choice.
Your choice, power of choice. Okay. Yeah. And the term good problems.
Good problems is a very common thing, but like a good problem is like, man, my phone doesn't stop ringing. Work is it's too much work. But like, it's a good problem to have.
Okay. And emotional intelligence.
What about it?
What do you think of that term, emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is everything, because your emotions is what drives every decision. I fucked up a lot of money over emotions, and I made a lot of good decisions based upon emotion. Motion over logic.
Motion over logic. So with all that, what would you tell DJ Effect when he first was about to start, or a DJ that's just about to start? What advice do you have to that DJ?
Be patient. Be persistent. Your time's coming, and don't try to get talented overnight. Don't try to get rich overnight.
Patience.
Yeah, because I was gonna make a cheesy metaphor with a turtle and a rabbit, but it doesn't. You can put a turtle and a rabbit in the same box, face one in two different directions, and the turtle, if he's facing the right direction, will get to the finish line. If the rabbit runs the other way fast, he's not gonna win.
Message. All right, Effect. Give everybody your handles. Tell them what's coming up, what's up, and let them know about the new podcast.
At DJ Effect on all platforms. The podcast is now available on every single platform. It's called Half a Ton of Fun. Shout to my two co-hosts on there, Jumbo and Jimbo. And then also look out for the Knowledge series, which is pretty much, it's not a podcast, it's a conversation. And it's just basically just impromptu, documented conversations.
Nice.
There's no questions. There's no answers. It's just conversations.
All right. There you guys have it. DJ Effect blessed us. I got to bring you back once you get all the podcasting popping, because I know you're going to get it popping.
Yeah, and you're coming on next week, right?
Yes, for sure. Honored to, man. That was awesome. When you told me that, I got excited.
That bottle is going to be empty by this.
I'll bring another bottle. All right. I'll bring a bigger, better bottle. All right, guys. Remember to harness the energy, exercise wisdom, live, love, and laugh. Peace.